The council voted to banish Earth. Part 1, the huge meeting room, was filled with thousands of alien beings. They sat in floating chairs that moved slowly around the curved walls. Each alien looked different from the others. Some had scales, some had fur, and others looked like they were made of crystal or metal. All of them were here for one reason: to decide what to do with the humans. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood at the center of the room. She was the only human there. Her black hair was pulled back tight and she wore a simple blue uniform. Around her, the aliens whispered to each other in their strange languages. She could not understand most of what they said, but she knew they were talking about her people. The leader of the meeting was a tall alien called a Zorathi. It looked like it was made of purple crystal. When it spoke, its voice sounded like glass breaking. "We have talked for many days," the Zorathi said. "Now it is time to vote. Should the humans be allowed to stay in our galaxy community?" Lights began to flash on the walls. Each light meant one alien group was voting. Red lights meant no. Blue lights meant yes. Sarah watched as more and more red lights appeared. Her heart felt heavy, but she kept her face calm. She had expected this. The counting took a long time. Finally, the Zorathi spoke again. "The vote is finished. 3,742 groups have voted. Only 58 groups voted to let humans stay. The rest voted to remove them." Sarah was not surprised. For months, the aliens had been saying bad things about humans. They said humans were too violent. They said humans could not be trusted. They said humans were dangerous and would cause problems for everyone. A green alien with 6 arms stood up. It was from a group called the Etherians. "Humans fight too much," it said in a high voice. "They have wars on their own planet. They cannot even live in peace with each other. How can we trust them with the whole galaxy?" Another alien nodded. This one looked like a giant bug. "Humans are too young," it buzzed. "Our people have been traveling space for 40,000 years. Humans just learned to fly between stars 100 years ago. They are babies trying to play with adults." More aliens spoke. They all said the same things. Humans were too new, too violent, too unpredictable. Sarah listened to them all. She had heard these words many times before. The Zorathi raised one crystal arm. The room became quiet. "The decision is made," it announced. "All humans must leave our galaxy territories. You have 72 days to pack your things and go back to your home system. After that time, any human found outside Earth's solar system will be arrested." Sarah picked up her small bag from the floor. Inside were papers and a recording device. She had been taking notes during all the meetings. She stood up straight and looked around the room. "Thank you," she said in a clear voice. The aliens looked confused. They had expected her to cry or beg or get angry. Instead, Sarah was smiling. It was not a sad smile or a fake smile. It was the kind of smile someone makes when they get exactly what they wanted. The Etherian alien who had spoken before looked puzzled. "Do you understand what just happened?" it asked. "Your people are being kicked out. You are alone now. You cannot trade with us. You cannot learn from us. You cannot ask us for help when you have problems." Sarah walked toward the door. Her footsteps echoed in the quiet room. When she reached the exit, she stopped and turned around. Every alien in the room was watching her. "I understand perfectly," she said. "But I think you do not understand what you just did. You think you are punishing us. You think you are teaching us a lesson. But you just gave us something we needed." "What did we give you?" asked the bug-like alien. Sarah's smile got bigger. "You gave us freedom. For 2 years, we tried to follow your rules. We tried to be polite and quiet and peaceful. We tried to fit in with your way of doing things. But your rules were made for people who think like you. We do not think like you." She paused and looked around the room again. "You also gave us something else. You showed us who you really are. You talk about peace and cooperation, but you kick out anyone who is different. You say you want to help young species grow, but you vote to abandon us as soon as we make you uncomfortable." The Zorathi stepped forward. "You cannot survive alone," it said. "You need our technology. You need our knowledge. You need our protection from the dangers in space." Sarah laughed. It was not a mean laugh, but it was not friendly either. "You really do not understand humans, do you? Do you know what happens when you tell a human they cannot do something? Do you know what happens when you leave humans alone with a problem to solve?" She did not wait for an answer. "We figure it out. We always figure it out. And we get better at it than anyone thought possible." The room was completely silent now. Even the floating chairs had stopped moving. "You want to know the truth?" Sarah continued. Some of us hoped you would vote this way. We have been preparing for this day since we first joined your community. We knew that beings who lived for thousands of years and never had to fight for anything would not understand beings who lived for decades and had to fight for everything. She turned to face the door again. You think you are sending us home to hide in our little corner of space? But you are wrong. You are not sending us home. You are setting us free. The door opened automatically as she approached it. Before walking through, Sarah spoke one more time without turning around. In your old books, there are stories about humans. You should read them again. You will learn that the most dangerous thing you can do to a human is tell them they cannot do something. The second most dangerous thing is to leave them alone with time to think. She walked through the door and it closed behind her with a soft sound. In the meeting room, the aliens sat in confused silence. They had expected begging or threats or tears. They had not expected confidence. They had not expected a human to walk away from the most powerful government in the galaxy with a smile on her face. The Zarathi looked around the room. She is trying to scare us, it said, but its voice did not sound as sure as before. What can one small species do against all of us? But some of the older aliens were not so certain. They remembered stories from their own histories, stories about what happened when you cornered a dangerous animal, stories about what happened when you gave someone nothing left to lose. In the hallway outside, Sarah was already on her communication device. It is done, she said to the person on the other end. They voted us out just like we predicted. 72 days to evacuate everything. Understood, came the reply. Are you ready to begin phase 2? Sarah looked back at the closed door of the meeting room. Inside, thousands of aliens were probably still trying to understand what had just happened. Yes, she said. It is time to show them what humans do when they are told they cannot do something. It is time to show them what happens when you give humans exactly what they need to become something more than what they were. She walked away down the long hallway, her footsteps echoing off the walls. Behind her, the most powerful government in the galaxy had just made what would turn out to be the biggest mistake in galactic history. They had given humanity a reason to become something the galaxy had never seen before. The news reached every human colony within hours. From the mining stations around Jupiter to the research bases near Alpha Centauri, humans everywhere got the same message: pack everything and come home. The Galactic Council had spoken, and humanity had 72 days to leave. But something strange was happening. Instead of panic or sadness, the humans seemed almost excited. Ships that had been sitting in storage for years were suddenly being prepared for flight. Factories that made everyday items switched to making storage containers and data storage devices. It was like the humans had been waiting for this moment. Commander Lisa Park stood on the bridge of the space station orbiting Kepler 442b. This was humanity's biggest research station outside of Earth's solar system. For 5 years, her team had been studying alien plants and animals, learning things that no human had ever known before. How much can we take? She asked her chief scientist, Dr. Marcus Webb. Dr. Webb looked at his tablet. His fingers moved quickly across the screen as he calculated. If we use every ship and every storage container, we can take about 60% of our research samples. We can take all of our data files and computer records, but we will have to leave behind the big equipment and most of the living specimens. Lisa nodded. What about the genetic samples? We can take all of those. They do not take up much space when frozen. Dr. Webb paused and looked out the window at the planet below. Lisa, are you sure about this? We are about to destroy 5 years of work. Lisa smiled. It was the same kind of smile that Ambassador Chen had worn in the council meeting. Marcus, we are not destroying anything. We are graduating. Down on the planet's surface, teams of humans were working day and night. They collected samples of every plant, every animal, every type of bacteria they could find. They took pictures of everything. They recorded the sounds that the alien animals made. They measured the temperature and humidity and air pressure in different places. But they were not just collecting things from Kepler 442b. Similar activities were happening on every human colony and research station. On the mining world of Ross 128b, humans were taking samples of rare metals and crystals. On the ocean world of Proxima Centauri C, they were collecting water and studying the strange fish-like creatures that lived there. The aliens who lived nearby watched all this activity with confusion. A group of bird-like aliens called the Aviary had a trade post near the human colony on Ross 128b. Their leader, Flight Commander Kesseth, sent a message to the Galactic Council. The humans are not acting like beings who have been defeated, the message said. They are working harder than we have ever seen them work. They are taking everything that is not nailed down. They are copying all of their computer files and sending the copies to their homeworld. It is like they are preparing for something big. The Council received many similar messages from all over the galaxy. Everywhere that humans had been living or working, they were collecting and copying and storing. They worked in shifts around the clock. They did not rest. But the strangest reports came from the aliens who tried to help. A group of friendly aliens called the Gentle Ones offered to let some human families stay on their worlds. The humans thanked them politely but said no. When asked why, a human woman named Maria Santos explained. "You are very kind," Maria said, "but we cannot split up our people now. We need to all be together for what comes next." "What comes next?" asked the Gentle One. Maria looked up at the stars. "We are going to show the galaxy what humans can do when no one is telling us we cannot do it." On Earth, President Elena Martinez was holding emergency meetings every day. The planet was preparing for the biggest homecoming in human history. Millions of humans were coming back from all over the galaxy, and they were bringing everything they had learned with them. "How many people are we expecting?" President Martinez asked her aide. 12 million, Madam President. That includes families, workers, researchers, traders, and military personnel. They will arrive over the next 60 days. President Martinez looked at the numbers on her screen. "And how much stuff are they bringing?" "Everything they can carry. Scientific data, genetic samples, mineral samples, technology blueprints, star maps, trade records, diplomatic files. If humans learned it or found it or bought it somewhere else in the galaxy, they are bringing it home." The president smiled. "Good. We are going to need all of that." Outside Earth's solar system, alien observers watched the human evacuation with growing concern. The humans had more ships than anyone had realized. Big ships, small ships, cargo ships, passenger ships, even old military ships that had been retired years ago. All of them were moving toward Earth, loaded with people and cargo. Captain Vexhai of the Draconian Trade Federation was one of the aliens who watched most carefully. His people were warriors and traders, and they recognized preparation when they saw it. He sent a private message to his government. "The humans are not running away," he wrote. "They are gathering their strength. This looks like what our people do before a big war or a big hunting expedition. They are collecting supplies and knowledge and bringing their scattered people together. I think we should be careful about what we do next." But most aliens were not worried. The Etherians, who had been some of the strongest voices against humanity, held a celebration on their homeworld. They were happy that the violent, unpredictable humans were finally gone. "Now we can have peace," said Council Member Veltar at the celebration. "Now we do not have to worry about what those aggressive humans might do next. They can stay in their little corner of space and leave the rest of us alone." The celebration was broadcast across the galaxy. Many alien species joined in, happy to see the end of what they saw as a problem. They made jokes about humans being sent to their room like naughty children. But not everyone was celebrating. Some of the older aliens, the ones who had lived through wars and disasters, were not so sure that this was a good idea. They remembered their own histories when young and aggressive species had been pushed too far. Ambassador Thelvis of the Centaurian Republic was one of the few aliens who had voted against banishing the humans. She sent a private message to her government. "I am worried about what we have done," she wrote. "Humans are not like other species. When most species are rejected and isolated, they become weak and give up. But humans seem to become stronger when they are alone. They seem to become more dangerous when they are cornered. I think we should watch Earth very carefully in the coming years." Meanwhile, the human evacuation continued. Ship after ship left the colonies and research stations, loaded with people and everything they had learned during their time in galactic civilization. The humans were polite and efficient, but they also made sure to take everything of value they could carry. On the last day before the deadline, the final human ship left Council space. It was a small courier ship carrying the last batch of diplomatic files and trade records. As it jumped to hyperspace, it broadcast a message on all galactic communication channels. "To all species of the Galactic Council," the message said, "humanity thanks you for the lessons you have taught us over the past 2 years. We have learned much about science, technology, and the galaxy. But most importantly, we have learned that we can only depend on ourselves. We will remember this lesson. We hope you will remember it too." The message ended and the ship disappeared into hyperspace heading toward Earth. The galaxy had not seen the last human ship leave their space. They had seen the last human ship leave their space peacefully. What would happen next was something entirely different, and most of the aliens had no idea what they had just set in motion. On Earth, President Martinez watched the last ship arrive. 12 million humans had come home, bringing with them all the knowledge and experience of their time among the stars. Now, she said to her advisors, we can begin the real work. 50 years passed after the last human ship disappeared from Council space. For most aliens in the galaxy, humans became a distant memory. New species joined the Council. Old problems were solved and new problems appeared. Trade continued between worlds. Wars were fought and peace treaties were signed. The galaxy moved on as if humans had never existed, but some aliens paid attention to the strange things happening near Earth's solar system. Captain Vexhai of the Draconian Trade Federation was now Admiral Vexhai, older and more experienced. His people were warriors and traders, and they had the best long-range sensors in the galaxy. Those sensors sometimes picked up odd signals coming from the direction of Earth. Admiral, his sensor officer reported one day, we are getting those energy readings again. The ones from the Sol system. Admiral Vexhai looked at the data on his screen. The energy signatures were huge, much bigger than anything humans should have been able to create with their old technology. How strong are they this time? Stronger than last month. And there are more of them. It looks like massive construction projects, but we cannot tell what they are building. The Admiral frowned. His people had been tracking these energy readings for 20 years. They kept getting stronger and more frequent, but no one was allowed to investigate. The Council had made it clear that the Sol system was off limits to everyone. Send this data to the Council, Admiral Vexhai ordered. Let them decide what to do with it. Similar reports were coming in from other sources. The Caltharian Science Directorate, which studied stars in space, noticed that some stars near Earth were acting strangely. Their gravity was changing in small ways, as if large objects were being moved around them. Dr. Zafani, the lead Caltharian scientist, presented her findings to her superiors. The gravitational disturbances suggest massive engineering projects, she explained. Something is being built in space near several star systems. The construction must be enormous to affect the gravity of entire star systems. But when the Caltharian government requested permission to send a science ship to investigate, the Council said no. The banishment of humanity was still in effect, and no alien was allowed to enter the Sol system or the empty space around it. Trade ships began to disappear near the borders of the old human territories. Not many, just one or two each year. The Council's official reports blamed pirates or navigation errors, but some people were not so sure. Commander Isek of the Serpentine Trade Guild was one of the aliens who suspected something else was happening. His ship had been attacked by pirates 3 years ago while carrying valuable crystals near the edge of human space. But the pirates had been using weapons that looked like human technology, only much more advanced than anything humans were supposed to have. The energy beams were too focused, he told his government. The shield disruptors were too efficient. Pirates do not have access to that kind of technology. Someone is developing new weapons out there. But the Council was not interested in investigating. As far as they were concerned, humans were gone and no longer a problem. The only alien who kept trying to warn people was Ambassador Thelvas of the Centaurian Republic. She was older now, near the end of her long career, but she had not forgotten her concerns about the human banishment. We are ignoring something dangerous, she said at a council meeting. We have reports of energy signatures, gravitational anomalies, missing ships, and unknown technology. All of these things are happening near the old human territories. We should be paying attention. But her warnings fell on deaf ears. Most council members had never met a human. To them, humans were just another primitive species that had been removed from the galaxy for everyone's safety. Council member Veltar of the Etherians, now elderly but still influential, dismissed Ambassador Thelvas's concerns. Humans were barely able to build simple spaceships when we knew them, he said. Now you want us to believe they have become some kind of threat? Impossible. They are probably extinct by now. Single-planet species rarely survive without help from the galactic community. The Zarathi representative agreed. Even if humans still exist, what could they possibly do? They had access to our knowledge for only 2 years. We have 40,000 years of accumulated wisdom and technology. One young species cannot threaten the entire galaxy. But not everyone was so confident. Some of the older military officers, the ones who remembered ancient wars and forgotten threats, were more cautious. General Korthax of the Mandalorian War Fleet was one of them. His people were professional soldiers, and they knew that the most dangerous enemies were often the ones you underestimated. "I have been reading the old reports about humans," he told his staff officers. "They were not just another primitive species. They learned faster than any species we have ever seen. They adapted to new situations better than anyone expected. And they had one quality that worried me even then." "What quality?" asked his aide. "They never gave up. No matter how bad things got for them, they always kept fighting. They always kept trying. And now we have given them 50 years to think about what happened to them. 50 years to plan and prepare and get angry." General Korthax requested permission to send scout ships to the edge of human space just to see what was happening there. His request was denied. The galaxy's intelligence services were also starting to worry. The Kethan Information Network, which gathered secrets and rumors from across the galaxy, began hearing strange stories. Agent Silith had been tracking these stories for years. "We are getting reports from the Outer Rim," she told her supervisor. "Traders and explorers are talking about strange ships in the deep space between star systems. Ships that look like they might be human design, but much larger and more advanced than anything humans ever built." "How reliable are these reports?" her supervisor asked. "Hard to say. Most of them come from independent traders and smugglers, people who go places they are not supposed to go. But we are hearing the same stories from different sources in different parts of the galaxy." The supervisor thought about this. Even if the reports are true, what does it matter? Humans were banished. If they are still alive, they are stuck in their home system. They cannot threaten anyone. But Agent Silith was not convinced. "Sir, what if they are not stuck in their home system anymore? What if they have been using these 50 years to develop new technology? What if the banishment did not weaken them but made them stronger?" Her supervisor looked at her like she was crazy. One species against the entire galaxy? That is impossible. Agent Silith left the meeting, but she continued to collect reports and rumors. Something was happening in the dark spaces between the stars, and she was determined to find out what it was. Meanwhile, on the pleasure world of Risa Prime, aliens from across the galaxy came to vacation and forget their troubles. The beaches were beautiful, the weather was perfect, and no one talked about politics or war or missing trade ships. But even on Risa Prime, some people were asking questions. A retired Volcari admiral named Tothrun spent his days sitting by the ocean, thinking about old battles and forgotten lessons. "You know what troubles me?" he said to his friend, a former diplomat from the Pacifican Assembly. "What troubles you, old friend? We have had 50 years of peace since the humans left. 50 years of no major wars, no serious threats, no challenges to the Council's authority. Do you know what that means?" His friend shook his head. "It means we have gotten soft. Our military forces have been fighting small conflicts and policing actions. Our intelligence services have been tracking smugglers and tax evaders. Our leaders have been dealing with trade disputes and diplomatic ceremonies. None of us remember how to fight a real war against a real threat." Admiral Tothrun looked up at the stars that were beginning to appear in the evening sky. "If humans have spent these 50 years preparing for something big, we are not ready for them. We do not even remember that we should be ready for them." But most aliens were not thinking about humans at all. The galaxy was peaceful and prosperous. Trade was good. Technology was advancing slowly and steadily, and the Council was managing everything well. Why worry about a species that had been gone for half a century? The answer to that question was coming, whether they were ready or not. The Unity Festival happened every 5 years on Zentral Prime, the capital world of the Galactic Council. It was the biggest celebration in the galaxy, where representatives from thousands of species came together to celebrate peace and cooperation. This year marked the 50th anniversary of humanity's banishment, though most aliens had forgotten that detail. The festival was in full swing when the impossible happened. Space traffic controllers at Zentral Prime's orbital stations were the first to see it. Their screens suddenly showed massive energy signatures dropping out of hyperspace. Not one ship, not 10 ships, but hundreds of ships appearing at the edge of the star system. "This is Control Station Alpha to all vessels," the traffic controller announced on emergency channels. "We have unknown ships entering the system. All civilian traffic is ordered to move to safe distances immediately." But as the unknown ships came closer, the traffic controllers realized something that made their blood run cold. These ships were huge. much bigger than anything in the Council's fleets, and their energy signatures were off the charts. Admiral Zareth of the Council Defense Force was attending the festival when his communication device started screaming with emergency alerts. He ran to the nearest military command center and looked at the tactical displays. "How many ships?" he demanded. "We count 376 vessels, Admiral," his sensor officer reported. "They are arranged in perfect formation. They are not responding to our communication attempts." Admiral Zareth studied the display. The unknown ships were moving with precision that spoke of advanced computer coordination. Their hulls were massive and clearly armored, and they were heading straight for Zentral Prime. "What do our scanners tell us about their technology?" The sensor officer's voice was shaky. "Admiral, their energy output is beyond anything in our database. Their shields are reading at levels that should be impossible. And sir, we are detecting similar fleets in 17 other star systems across the galaxy." Admiral Zareth felt his heart skip a beat. 17 other systems? "Are you certain?" "Yes, sir. Long-range communication is reporting identical fleets appearing over major council worlds. They all appeared at exactly the same time." Before Admiral Zareth could respond, every screen in the command center activated. The face that appeared on them was human, but older than any human the Admiral had ever seen. The woman had gray hair and lines around her eyes, but her expression was completely confident. "Greetings, Galactic Council," the human said. "My name is Admiral Sarah Chen, formerly Ambassador Sarah Chen. I believe some of you remember me. Across Zentral Prime, every screen, every communication device, every information display showed the same message. Aliens in the festival grounds stopped celebrating and stared at the screens in confusion and growing fear. 50 years ago, you voted to expel humanity from galactic civilization," Admiral Chen continued. "You told us we were too violent, too unpredictable, too dangerous to be part of your community. You gave us 72 days to leave, and we did exactly what you asked." The image switched to show the human fleet hanging in space above Zentral Prime. The ships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Their hulls incorporated design elements that looked familiar to various alien species, but unified by clearly human engineering principles. "But we did not go quietly into exile," Admiral Chen said. "We used our time wisely. We learned from our mistakes, and we prepared for this day." In the Council Defense Force Command Center, Admiral Zareth was frantically trying to organize his forces, but the human fleet had positioned itself perfectly to control all the important orbital facilities and space lanes around Zentral Prime. "Can we fight them?" he asked his tactical officer. The tactical officer looked at his displays and shook his head. "Admiral, their shields are reading at 4 times the power of our best dreadnoughts. Their weapons arrays are beyond anything in our specifications, and they have positioned smaller vessels throughout the system in ways that would make any attack on the main fleet impossible." "How many of our ships are in the system?" 43 vessels, Admiral. Most of them are ceremonial escort ships with minimal weapons. Our main battle fleets are spread across the galaxy for routine patrols." Admiral Zareth realized the terrible truth. The humans had timed their return perfectly. They had appeared during the one time when the Council's military forces were scattered and unprepared. On the planet's surface, the Unity Festival had turned into chaos. Alien delegates were demanding answers, trying to contact their home governments and arguing about what to do. Some wanted to evacuate immediately. Others wanted to call for military assistance. A few suggested trying to negotiate. The Zarathi delegate, now very old but still representing his people, was one of the few who remembered the day humanity was banished. "This is impossible," he said to anyone who would listen. "Humans were a primitive species. They could barely build simple spacecraft. How could they develop this kind of technology in only 50 years? But Admiral Chen was not finished with her message. "You are probably wondering how a single species accomplished what you see before you," she said, as if she had heard the Zarathi's question. "The answer is simple. We did not do this alone." The image on the screens changed again. Now it showed not just human ships but vessels of dozens of different designs. Some looked like they belonged to species the Council had never seen before. Others looked familiar but wrong somehow. "Allow me to introduce you to the Silent Collective," Admiral Chen announced. "We are an alliance of species that your Council has rejected, expelled, or ignored over the centuries. The Vorthan outcasts, who you banished for refusing to share their dimensional technology, the machine intelligences of Kepler 90, who you denied citizenship because they were artificial, The nomadic tribes of the Outer Rim who you considered too primitive for membership. Admiral Zareth felt his mouth go dry. The Council had expelled or rejected dozens of species over the millennia. If even half of them had joined with humanity. Each of our member species brought unique abilities and knowledge to our alliance, Admiral Chen continued. The Vorthans taught us to fold space and time. The machine intelligences gave us computational power beyond anything you can imagine. The nomads showed us how to survive and thrive in the deep spaces between stars. The tactical displays in the command center were updating with new information as the human message continued. The unknown ships were not just using advanced versions of known technology. They were using combinations of technologies that no single species should have been able to develop. But most importantly, Admiral Chen said, humanity contributed something that your council never understood. We taught our allies how to work together, how to combine different strengths to create something greater than any individual species could achieve alone. The message paused, and Admiral Chen's expression became more serious. We are not here to destroy your civilization, she said. We are not here for revenge, though we would have every right to seek it. We are here to offer you a choice. Across the galaxy on 17 different worlds, similar scenes were playing out. Human fleets had appeared above the most important council worlds simultaneously. Their timing was perfect, their coordination was flawless, and their message was the same everywhere. You can continue with your current system, Admiral Chen announced. Your rigid hierarchies, your fear of change, your habit of rejecting anyone who thinks differently than you do. You can keep governing the galaxy the same way you have for 40,000 years. She paused and her expression softened slightly. Or you can join us in building something new. A galactic community based on cooperation rather than control. A civilization that values innovation over tradition. A government that earns respect through achievement rather than demanding it through age and custom. In the council chambers, emergency sessions were beginning as delegates tried to understand what was happening, but they were hampered by the same bureaucracy and rigid thinking that had led to humanity's banishment 50 years earlier. The Etherian representative was shouting at anyone who would listen. This is an invasion. They are threatening us. We must resist. But Ambassador Thelvas of the Centaurian Republic, now very old but still sharp, was looking at the situation more carefully. Look at their positioning, she said to her aide. Look at their tactics. They could have destroyed our orbital defenses before announcing themselves. They could have landed troops on the planet. They could have cut off our communications. But they did none of those things. What does that mean? Her aide asked. It means they are telling the truth. They really are not here to conquer us. They are here to make us an offer. Admiral Chen's message was nearing its end. We will give you time to consider our proposal, she said. But not too much time. The galaxy is changing with or without your council. You can be part of that change or you can be left behind by it. The transmission ended and screens across Central Prime went dark. The human fleet remained in position, silent and waiting. In the command center, Admiral Zareth was receiving reports from across the galaxy. The pattern was the same everywhere. Human fleets had appeared, delivered their message, and were now waiting for a response. Admiral, his communication officer reported, we are receiving the debates in the council chambers went on for days. Representatives from thousands of species argued, shouted, and demanded answers that no one could provide. Meanwhile, the human fleets waited patiently in orbit around 17 of the galaxy's most important worlds, making no threats but also showing no signs of leaving. Admiral Zareth had not slept in 3 days. His defense forces were completely outmatched, and everyone knew it. Reports kept coming in from across the galaxy, all saying the same thing. The humans had technology that was decades ahead of anything the Council possessed. Show me the analysis again, he told his chief science officer. Dr. Welani, a tall, thin alien with 4 arms, activated the holographic display. The human ships are using some kind of hybrid technology, she explained. We can see elements of Vorthon space-folding drives, which explains how they can move so quickly. There are signs of machine intelligence computational systems which would give them coordination abilities we cannot match. She pointed to different parts of the ship designs on the display, but the most interesting thing is how they have combined these technologies. No single species should be able to integrate so many different systems, but humans seem to have found a way to make them work together. Admiral Zareth studied the displays. What about their weapons? Unknown but powerful. Our sensors indicate energy output levels that are far beyond our current defensive capabilities. If they wanted to destroy our orbital installations, they could do it easily. But they have not attacked anyone? Correct. Despite their overwhelming advantage, they have not fired a single shot. They seem to be waiting for some kind of response from us. In the council chambers, the arguments were getting more heated. Some species wanted to fight, despite the obvious impossibility of winning. Others wanted to negotiate. A few suggested surrender. The Zarathi representative, the same one who had announced humanity's banishment 50 years earlier, was among the most vocal opponents of any cooperation with the humans. "This is exactly what we predicted," he said to the assembly. "Humans are violent and aggressive. Now they have returned with superior weapons to threaten us. We cannot negotiate with them because they cannot be trusted." But Ambassador Thelvis of the Centaurian Republic had a different perspective. She was now the oldest member of the council, having served for over 70 years. "With respect to my colleague," she said, "I think we need to consider the possibility that we were wrong about humans, not about their aggressive nature, but about what that aggression would lead to." She activated her own display, showing intelligence reports from the past 50 years. "Look at what they have actually done. They were expelled from our territory and they left peacefully. They were cut off from galactic trade and they did not try to force their way back in. They were denied access to our technology and knowledge, so they went out and found other sources." The Zarathi representative interrupted. "They found rejected species and outcasts. They created an alliance of the galaxy's unwanted criminals and failures." Ambassador Thelvis looked at him calmly. "Or they found species that we rejected because they thought differently than we do. Species that had valuable knowledge and abilities, but did not fit into our rigid system." She changed the display to show the composition of the silent collective. The Vorthon outcasts were expelled because they refused to share their dimensional technology freely with the Council. But they were not criminals. They were a proud people who wanted to control their own inventions. The machine intelligences were denied citizenship, not because they were dangerous, but because we were uncomfortable with artificial consciousness. Around the chamber, representatives began to murmur and whisper among themselves. Some were beginning to see the situation in a new light. But the real revelation came when Admiral Chen herself appeared in the council chambers. She did not arrive in a dramatic way, with energy beams and force fields. Instead, she simply walked through the main entrance like any other visitor, accompanied by 2 human guards and a small alien that no one recognized. The chamber fell completely silent as she walked to the center of the room and looked around at the thousands of alien representatives. "I requested permission to address this assembly," she said in a clear voice. "I was told that banished species have no right to speak here, so I decided to come anyway." Security forces started to move toward her, but Admiral Chen raised her hand. "Before you arrest me, you should know that my arrival here was detected by your sensors 15 minutes ago. Your defense systems identified my ship, tracked its approach, and allowed it to land. If I had wanted to come here secretly, you would never have seen me coming." Admiral Zareth, who was monitoring the session from his command center, quickly checked his records. She was right. The human ship had appeared on sensors, followed normal approach procedures, and landed in the designated area like any diplomatic vessel. "You are wondering how I got past your security," Admiral Chen continued. "The answer is simple. I did not try to get past it. I came here openly because I want to show you something important. I want to show you the difference between your way of thinking and ours." She gestured to the small alien beside her. "This is Ambassador Crix of the Quantum Collective, a species that your council has never heard of. They live in the deep space between galaxies, and they have been watching our civilizations for thousands of years." The small alien stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice was like musical notes. "We have observed many galactic governments rise and fall," it said. "Most of them follow the same pattern. They start with cooperation and shared goals, but over time they become rigid and fearful of change. They begin to reject anything new or different." Ambassador Crix looked around the chamber. "Your galactic council is very old, very stable, and very predictable. You have not had a major war in centuries because you have eliminated everyone who might challenge your way of doing things. You have peace, but you also have stagnation." Admiral Chen nodded. "When you expelled humanity, you thought you were removing a threat to your stability, but you were actually removing one of the few sources of change and growth in your civilization." She activated a small device, and holographic displays appeared throughout the chamber. The displays showed star charts, but they were unlike any star charts the Council had ever seen. This is what the Silent Collective has discovered in the past 50 years, Admiral Chen announced. New star systems, new forms of life, new technologies, new ways of understanding the universe. While you have been maintaining your existing territory and existing knowledge, we have been exploring and growing. The displays showed incredible things. Living planets that moved through space like giant organisms, energy beings that existed in the hearts of stars, ancient ruins left by civilizations that had transcended physical existence millions of years ago. Your way of governing works well for maintaining what you already have, Admiral Chen continued. But it does not work well for discovering what you do not yet know. You have created a stable, peaceful, predictable galaxy, but you have also created a stagnant one. Council member Veltar of the Etherians, one of the oldest and most conservative members, stood up to respond. Stability is not a weakness, he declared. We have avoided the chaos and destruction that comes from constant change and conflict. We have created a civilization that can last for millions of years. Admiral Chen looked at him with what might have been pity. Counselor, your civilization has been essentially unchanged for the past 10,000 years. You have the same technology, the same social structures, the same ways of thinking. You have achieved stability by stopping growth. She changed the holographic display to show a comparison between the Council's territory and the regions explored by the Silent Collective. In 50 years, we have expanded into areas of space 3 times larger than your entire civilization. We have made contact with hundreds of species you have never encountered. We have developed technologies that make your most advanced systems look primitive. Admiral Zareth was watching this exchange from his command center, and he was beginning to understand something that terrified him. Dr. Willani, he said to his science officer, how many member species does the Council have? 3,807, Admiral. And how many species has the Silent Collective encountered in the past 50 years? Dr. Willani checked her records. According to the intelligence briefings, they claim contact with over 1,500 previously unknown species. Admiral Zareth felt his blood turn cold. So in 50 years, they have found almost half as many new species as we have accumulated in 40,000 years of existence. That appears to be correct, Admiral. In the council chambers, Admiral Chen was making her final point. We are not here to conquer you or replace you, she said. We are here to invite you to join something larger than what either of us could achieve alone. Your council brings stability, experience, and the wisdom of age. The Silent Collective brings